Good morning, Econ students. Hope you had a good weekend. Here we are in the home stretch, about 2 weeks out from the AP test. Let's keep getting ready by going over the FRQ we talked about on Friday. And while you don't have to graph anything, remember it can be useful if you're having a hard time visualizing things, you don't remember the rules, to draw a graph as you're mapping things out and trying to figure out exactly what happens to things like GDP and price level. Also, keep in mind, while a lot of you guys are you're still putting arrows like for increase and decrease and not really writing, you need to make sure that you're ready to write things out on May 21st. Okay, even a simple sentence like real output increases. Okay, you just can't put an arrow there. So with that in mind, let's on to this is Review FRQ number 4. The United States is experiencing a high rate of unemployment. Let's draw a graph of that really quick. If we have a high rate of unemployment, that means we have a recessionary gap. Okay, so we're dealing with long-run aggregate supply to the right, and equilibrium is to the left. So look something like that. Here's full employment at Laras. Here we are below full employment. Okay, identify one fiscal policy the government might initiate to decrease the unemployment rate. Most of you guys nailed this pretty easily. We're talking about if we want to get rid of unemployment, we need to use expansionary fiscal policy. And there are two options. Expansionary fiscal policy, we can increase government spending, which we're doing right now. Huge bailout plans for businesses. And $1,200, hopefully, for each of your parents, plus $500 for all the kids. These are big increases in government spending. And we could cut taxes, which is something that happened in 2017, I believe, or 2000, whenever the tax bill was passed. Yeah, I think it was 2017. At the end of 2017, lower taxes. All this idea is to get people and businesses to spend more, or the government to spend more, and this will boost aggregate demand. Now, when this happens, Part B, explain how this fiscal policy action would affect each of the following: output and price level. Output, same idea as real GDP. So, if we're increasing aggregate demand, great try by me, but we increased it, we shifted it to the right. Yeah, and this is especially helpful if you're having a hard time visualizing. So, as you can see, when we boosted aggregate demand through expansionary fiscal policy, real output went from Y sub 1 to full employment. Real output or real GDP increased. Same thing goes up here. As we increase aggregate demand, the price level increased from PL1 to PL2. And there you have it for Part B. As a result of this fiscal policy action in Part A, the government incurs a budget deficit. Explain how this deficit would affect short-term interest rates. Well, as I just said, if we're talking about right now where our government continues to build up higher and higher levels of deficit and debt due to increases in government spending and relatively low tax rates, this is going to affect the loanable funds market. Again, whenever you see terms like budget, government spending or low taxes creating a budget deficit, you need to think of the loanable funds market. Here's loanable funds market. Here you go. Demand for loanable funds, supply of loanable funds, and real interest rates. Looks like that. And let's assume when we're talking about a budget deficit, that means the government has to borrow a lot of money in order to, finance the economy, or in order to stabilize the economy, or do whatever it is the government wants to do. If we're using expansionary fiscal policy, chances are tax revenues go down, due to cutting taxes, and we have to, continue to spend on things like Social Security and the military. So in all cases, whether it's a cut in taxes or an increase in government spending, the government's probably going to have to borrow more money. And in doing so, demand for loanable funds. This was the most missed question on FRQ number 4. I wrote back to a lot of you this weekend about it. If demand for loanable funds goes up because the government has to borrow money, aka budget deficit, real interest rates will increase, as you can see, going from I1 to I2. You didn't have to draw this, but it helps. And then Part D, the government decides to use monetary policy instead of fiscal policy. So we're going to use expansionary monetary policy here. Identify an open market policy the Fed could implement to decrease the unemployment rate? Well, if we're talking about open market policy, we're always talking about bonds and securities. So in this case, the government would buy bonds. The Fed buys bonds. That gives more money to banks, lowers interest rates. Banks can loan out more money at lower interest rates, and we're all happy. And that relates to the last question. Part E, explain how each of these will be affected in the short run. Well, you didn't have to draw a graph, but I'm going to draw one anyway. Of the money market, your QM and nominal interest rates. That's how we set it up. Demand for money. Remember, with the money market, supply of money is vertical, provided by the Fed, and we label our points I1 and Q1. If the Fed buys bonds, and we're using expansionary monetary policy, the money supply curve will shift to the right. Like so. So money supply curve shifts to the right. This increase in the money supply, part I, will lower interest rates, part double I. Lower interest rates means more investment. More investment means higher aggregate demand. So low interest rates, people will invest more, businesses spending, aggregate demand goes up. If aggregate demand goes up, and here's part 3, GDP or output goes up. And part 4, this would, it's just the shift of aggregate demand to the right. And you could draw that out too. GDP goes up and price level goes up. So chances are, combination question using expansionary monetary policy just monetary policy and fiscal policy in general is probably going to show up. Probably a good bet, so make sure you have that down. If I posted a College Board review today again. If there are any specific questions or topics you feel like we could spend some more time going over, let me know. Shoot me an email. I'll include that in a video or make another video. Got plenty of time to make these. So, yeah, just let me know how I can help. Talk to you guys later. Have a good day.